Hello, I'm Sandy Walden, your Master Grief Coach Trainer, and founder of the Grief Healing Courses. Grief and grieving. I hear from many experts, including those I respect tremendously, that we will always be grieving. We will always be healing. Now, I've addressed this before, but it's come to my attention again very recently in a huge way. For me, that means I need to talk about it. So I've looked up a few definitions of grief. The acute pain that accompanies loss. Deep, poignant distress. And as I contemplate this, I can find myself going back to when my son died, because he's been the most profound loss that I've experienced in my life up to this point. And when Mikey died, deep, poignant distress is the understatement of the world. Acute pain that accompanies loss, absolutely. And here I am now, all these years later, when those statements don't apply to me. Does that mean I'm still grieving? Some will say yes, some will say no. I'd like to know what you have to say. Now, I can understand and get my head around this idea that we might feel as though we will miss them profoundly forever. And perhaps that is grieving. I feel like the words need to be, I feel like we need to add more language to grief and healing. Yes, I will always think, I wish all three of my boys were here for the random Thursday dinner when we go play pool, or we're having a fire in the backyard when there's a holiday. One of my boys has died. Mike is in heaven. He's not going to be here physically. One of my boys is here most often because he only lives a few miles down the road. The other boy is not here very often. He lives in another state. He has a very busy personal life. Am I feeling grief about that? Here's something that some may push back on, and you're welcome to, because your experience is yours. I feel very much the same about Mike not being here as I do for my son who's in another state. Wish they could be here, but I'm not feeling that acute distress. And I needed to take this further. I thought, okay, if grief lasts forever, that we will always be grieving, we will always be healing, what about the other losses in my life? I think about the grandparents. No, I'm not feeling that. On the other hand, I wasn't close with them. Maybe that's why. So I took that in other places, or to other relationships, I should say. And I started thinking about some of the other relatives, some of whom I was so close to. And I sat there and thought about that. As I think about one particular uncle, and I've talked about him many times because he and my aunt were very much a part of my growing up, and she's still around, very much a part of my life. Would I love it if I could have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich with him again? I would. Do I feel that deep, poignant distress that he's not here? Do I feel the acute pain that accompanies his loss? Not anymore. I did early on. I remember crying rivers of tears, but I don't now. Now, instead of that distress and that pain, I have fond memories that make me smile and even laugh. And some make me say, really? You gotta be kidding. I feel as though it has progressed and sorted and healed. It's not quite the same with my son, but it's very different for every person. I think about my biological father, my dad who raised me, technically my stepdad. But do you see what I'm saying? Many people in my world have died. If you're around my age, you may have as well. And yet I'm not suffering with each one of those. I certainly felt pain. I certainly felt anguish. Not always anguish with everybody, but I certainly felt profound loss with each one of them at the time. But I've done the work, a lot of work. When I think about one particular person, holy cats, did I do work. And I actually feel as though our relationship is much better and stronger and healthier now that he's on the other side than it ever was. So not only do I personally not feel that I am grieving his loss, I feel a deeper connection. For me, this feels like healed. So when we say we will be grieving forever, I want to ask, is it okay if you don't? Understand, for somebody who proclaims this, I trust and respect that it's their truth. I see and hear this from many, many experts. I see this from other coaches. And again, I honor and respect your truth is yours. It may look, sound, and feel different than mine. I'm in a place, if you would ask me if I'm still grieving my son, I'm going to tell you no. Do I love him? Absolutely. Do I feel a strong, amazing connection with him? I do. I don't feel like we have unfinished business. I feel like we have a continuing relationship that's very changed, but quite marvelous. Am I grieving my Mikey? I don't believe I am. There are absolutely days when I feel wistful or sad that he's not with me, that he made the choice to end his own life. Mikey died by suicide. It doesn't feel like grief to me. It feels regret and understanding and respect at the same time. In a similar way to the idea that my middle son will not be with me for certain days and events. Regret, but appreciation that he's living his life in a way that's amazing and wonderful, and that I get to see him. I certainly talk to him often. I get to see him, not as often as I'd like, but he's a grown man. He gets to make different decisions. Am I grieving that? I don't believe I am. I feel as though it's respect and honoring where we are. So please, if your truth is that you are grieving for the rest of your life, know that I respect you and I honor that that is your truth. And I ask you to honor and respect mine. The love I have for my child is profound and always will be. I believe that the grief has left the building for me. How about for you? Because we each walk this path in our own way, in our own time. And I often feel as though it would be very helpful if we have other language to expand or shift or change. And I don't know what that would be, but I'd be very curious to hear from you. What does it mean? How does it feel to you? If you can take your thoughts and your experiences further than the loss that brings you here, are you still grieving those other losses? And maybe you are. Has it shifted and changed? Has the grief dissolved for you? Has something else taken its place? What is your truth? I'm Sandy Walden, Master Grief Coach, Master Grief Coach Trainer, and Grief Healing Course Developer. I'd love to hear from you. Namaste.